Good evening. This is the class titled Heroes of Faith. It's not what you meant to be, or you meant to be. Then there might be another room somewhere in the building. It's early in the quarter, so some people are still getting situated. How long is eternity? How long is eternity? Basically, it's forever. It's not a precise answer, but we'll go with that. Do you believe that every human soul will live somewhere for eternity? Do you believe that there are two and only two possible eternal destinies for every human soul? Do you believe that these only two destinies are the heaven and the hell as described in the Bible? Is it true that existence in heaven is unimaginably better than the best human experience on earth? You basically agree with that? Is it true that existence in hell is unimaginably worse than the worst human existence on earth? Some are, some aren't. So I believe all of those things that I've said so far. These objected. You might be afraid to object if you don't agree with any of those, you don't believe with any of those, because those are the traditional Christian beliefs on those topics. I have entertained, I have tried to believe in some different things than what I've said. I have wished for, I have hoped for it being true that hell is short of eternity. That maybe God's plan, God's system of justice would be such that a person could suffer for a period of time, years, thousands of years, whatever it took to satisfy his justice, and then that person's consciousness, their existence would cease. Sure. I've admitted in this context several times before, I'm not a very smart guy. I've had 3 or 4 or 5 original thoughts in my whole life. Everything else I've gotten from somewhere else, including this one, right? And so it's not original to me. I can't find it in Scripture. When I think about this very comforting, reassuring, it makes sense to me, I wish this were true, and then I compare it to statements in Scripture, particularly Jesus' statements, I can't get there. So I believe the things that I've stated so far. So if each of you, is going to either heaven or hell, and if heaven and hell are both forever, and if heaven is way better than the best of this life, and if hell is way worse than the worst of this life which, by the way, lasts what? Kathleen Cantley is ticking in at 102, 103 in September. Yeah? I mean, we're talking 100 years at most. Then, if all those things are true, then isn't the most important question in life, why are some people going to heaven and other people going to hell? Isn't that the most important question? Isn't that one way of wording the most important question? Isn't that tied for most important question? We're talking about eternity, forever and ever and ever. And everybody's going to spend forever in one of those two places, heaven or hell. You can't miss both of them. You're going to have to land in one of them. And the hell is so awful that it's worse than the worst thing that people could experience and have experienced in this life, which only lasts decades, and hell's forever. I mean, when you stack all those together, the most important thing to figure out while you've got the 90 years is, why are some people going to heaven and why are other people going to hell? You with me on that? And then, wouldn't it also be true that the most important pursuit of your life, the mission that should not be jeopardized for any other thing, do I go to heaven and thereby not go to the other place? We on board with that? Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. And without faith it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him. I've got several other translations of that verse on my paper. They're all almost identical. Some passages put diligently seek him, earnestly seek him. But they all say that without faith, it is impossible to please God. And that God is a rewarder of those who seek. So Hebrews 11, in my opinion, may be among the very most helpful passages to answering the question. What is the question? Why are some people going to heaven and some people are going to hell? Now, the whole Bible is helpful in answering that question. Let me try to illustrate my point this way. If I were to put in front of us all a picture of, let's call them shapes that resemble bowling pins. So imagine a picture up there of a bunch of bowling pins. And each bowling pin is a distinct color. And many of the colors more or less are red. Some of them might be crimson, some might be more on the pink side, some might be moving toward purple. And then there's some that are not red at all. And I said, okay, here's the game. Here's the test. Here's the activity if you want to participate. You need to look at all of these bowling pins. Maybe there's 12, 18, 4, I don't know. There's all these bowling pins up there. Different shades of color. And I say, I need you to identify all of the red bowling pins. And so you engage and you do your best. I give you a copy of it yourself so you can look at it closely. And you do your best to mark the bowling pins that are red. Now, the one that's green, what do you do with that? Not going to get marked. The one that's blue, nah. Black, white, nah. Easy, right? Easy, not red. The one that's just perfectly red, it's like the epitome of red. When you pull up your Wiktionary, your Wikipedia, and you look for red, there it is, red. You look at your bowling pin, that's red. But there's all these other bowling pins that are kind of red, but not quite red. So what do you do with those? You do the best you can, and you mark the bowling pins that you think are red. Now, when you're done with that exercise, do you think it would be helpful if some authority came behind you and said, here are the right answers? These are red, and these others are not red. Would that be helpful? Yeah. That's why I believe that Hebrews chapter 11, among all the passages in Scripture that are helpful in answering the question, why are some people going to heaven and some people going to hell? Why it may be that Hebrews chapter 11 is among the very most helpful passages in answering that question. Do you know why? Because if I'm correct in my tentative understanding of the message of Hebrews chapter 11, that's still to be worked out. I'm inviting you all to participate in this. But it seems to me that it's very likely that Hebrews chapter 11 is like an authority handing you the paperback with the bowling pins and telling you, these are red. So, one of the ways to answer the question, why are some people going to heaven and some people going to hell? Well, let me pause for a minute, because now I think it would be a good time for me to let any of you who want to offer a spontaneous. You weren't prepared for this question, right? You didn't get advance notice, so it's kind of off the cuff. But you've had a few minutes now me laying this for your mind to start formulating how would you answer that question. Why are some people going to heaven and some people going to hell? How would you answer that? The first brave here. So, as a descendant of Samson, I am offended at your gratuitous remark. Besides the fact that it's not a good faith attempt to answer the question on the table. But I know why you felt you had to do that. And we do a good bit of that in the quarter, and even tonight. So back to the question, why are some people going to heaven and some people going to hell? Now, I know you haven't had much time to prepare, But try, if you're going to venture an answer with 3, 4, 7 minutes of preparation time, try to make it as close to the essential answer as you can, right? Not a peripheral answer. You don't want it to be the 7th best answer in the dictionary. You want it to be the answer. Now, maybe I'm less likely to get any responses after that. It kind of ratchets up the pressure, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Yeah. Go ahead. Well, he had the hand like this.
I didn't know if you wanted an answer.
I do want answers, but I'm not getting answers, so I have to keep, this is what you do. You keep formulating, phrasing, cajoling, coaxing. Yes, sir.
I think people have to make a choice based on information given in regard to the narrative laid out by the authority.
Okay. So I think that's a way of saying you're not a Calvinist. Which I think what you're emphasizing in your answer is, it's not that God, in his sovereignty for creation, decided for himself, based on nothing that any person has done or thought about doing before they ever lived, he decided this individual is going to go to heaven, this individual is going to go to hell. So you're saying there's human agency involved in the outcome. Okay? Yep. I can't disagree with that answer. I think that's a fine answer. Yes? Yeah. I like that answer. Yeah. Can't be sure, Alan, but let's try. Let's try.
Trying to make sure I understand. So when you were talking about the red bowling pins, I was
Yeah.
thinking, well, you need a reference. You need a reference to know what.
Yes.
So you're saying Hebrews 11 is our reference for faith. This is what faith is.
I'm suggesting even more specifically than that. I like what you did there, and I should have incorporated that concept into my bowling pin scenario. I should have said, you also get a piece of paper here that says this is perfect redness, right? So now you know, oh, that one bowling pin is perfect redness. That's definitely getting an X. That's a check mark. You still have to decide, what do I do with the other ones that are red, kind of red? You pick a color, you'd probably say red, but it's perfect redness. So do I check it off and say, that's red? Is it close enough or is it not close enough? Right? And remember, what's riding on the exercise? Eternity. Heaven or hell. And heaven's not just kind of good. It's forever better than anything you've ever experienced. And hell is not just like your worst day. It's worse than anything you've ever experienced or anything anybody in the history of the world has ever experienced. And there's been some really awful suffering in the world. And it goes on and on and on and on. Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill, and it rolls back down the hill, and then he pushes the rock up the hill, and it rolls back down the hill. He ain't touching it. That ain't even touching it. Yeah? Did I answer your question? Okay, what's the question?
Is this the reference? Is Hebrews 11?
So
Is that what you're?
that's not what I'm suggesting. To put it in your framework, I would say Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is the reference. He's the perfect reference, the standard. But Hebrews chapter 11, if it's what I hope it is, and that's yet to be determined, I'm not even completely sure myself, but I'm leaning that way, okay? And I want you to help me, help yourself, and come to your own understanding.
Okay, so it might be the Hebrews 11 is the spectrum of red.
So Hebrews chapter 11 might be the authority coming behind and saying, this one's red. It's red enough. This other one's red enough. This one's red enough. This one's red enough. Now, wouldn't you love to have that kind of cheat code on a test like that? Yeah. So let me clarify that point. Yeah.
About that point, though, if Jesus is the standard,
Yes.
then and that's if you have to match it perfectly.
Yeah. Which is why I argue we don't have to match it. Okay. So we want to go next. Let's go back to the question, which is, how would you answer some people going to heaven and some people going to hell? I think we've had 4 or so different answers. Anybody else want to weigh in on that question?
Some had faith, but they didn't run endurance. They quit before they reached the line.
So which camp are they in? So which camp is Samson? The heaven or hell? Is he in the red or the not red? Okay. Salvation by grace through faith. That is the theme of God's sovereign choice to choose to save some people and not save other people. 100% of the people who have reached a point in their life experience where they are accountable before God, they are morally responsible, 100% of the people rebelled against God. It's truth right there that a fair number of humans don't, but that the Bible, I'll get to you in just a minute. Let me finish this thought. Because of sin, because of rebellion, because of what sin is, it is rebellion against the universe. It is unexcusable because we all held truth. We rejected truth. So the consequence is damnation. So then the question is, well, is he going to save anybody? Everybody had a chance to be right and everybody chooses to rebel, so is he going to choose anybody to save? And if he does, on what basis, on what grounds will he do it? And the understanding of Scripture is that he did choose to save some people, and it's on the basis of grace. And the condition is faith. The condition of faith is not this flat, one-dimensional, I look up into heaven and I believe there's a God, so I'm good. That is not biblical faith. Biblical faith is believing God, trusting God, seeking after God. That's what faith is. It's manifested in thousands of ways, and there's lots of examples of real human beings who showed faith. So that's how I would answer the question. Brenda. Yeah. So I think I agree with that. You're either a Christian or you're not. Is the color on your shirt? It's not red. Okay? So you would have no trouble with 1,000 different shades of red on a piece of paper. You would have no trouble picking out the one color that's red and everything else is not red. Yeah. What's that? Correct. Correct. Yes, sir. Correct. Okay. So, in my analogy, shades of red are individual people's attempts to walk by faith. The Son of God walked by faith. Now, he was also justified. He didn't need to be saved because he didn't have any sins. He was right, he was just before the standard because he never sinned. He was the only human being who's ever been able to stand before God and say, hold the yardstick next to me and see if I measure up. And he measured up. So he didn't need forgiveness. He didn't need to be saved. He didn't need to be redeemed. You follow me? The people who need to be saved, forgiven, redeemed are the people who fall short, who have sinned, who are guilty, who stand condemned before the law. Yes? Jesus did walk by faith, though. And if you boil down the standard of why are some people going to heaven and some people going to hell, it's not because some people sinned and some people didn't. That's not it. That's not the delineating distinction. It's not because some people obeyed God and some people did not obey God. Everybody has obeyed God at some point in their life, right? Everybody has done something that was right and obedient to God. Nobody has obeyed God every minute of every day of their life. So that's not the difference. The difference is faith. And so Jesus is the perfect red of what faith is. It's of what faith is. And these other characters in Hebrews chapter 11 are also examples of what faith is. And some are redder than others. I would like to argue that maybe Abraham is close red, pure red, true red, not pure red. He's not true red. And his faith was not perfect. It was really genuine. It was really powerful. It was really strong. Not at every moment. But that is a brother, that is a saint who repeatedly demonstrated tremendous faith. So I'm trying to clarify. I know this is different than what you expected coming in here tonight. I know that. Some of you are not comfortable right now. I'm not intentionally trying to make you uncomfortable. It doesn't give me pleasure to make you uncomfortable. Where I come from is I think this question and this topic is important. I think that adult, mature Christians wrestling with questions like this is good for us. And so I don't apologize for the exercise. I do acknowledge that some of you don't like what's happening right now, and I'm just asking you to be patient and stay with it. Follow along. So to clarify further, perfect redness is not sinless. Perfect redness is ideal faith. So red or almost red or mostly red or kind of red is the concept that none of us has perfect faith. We're all efforting, yes? And we're falling short and we're failing. But everybody mentioned in Abraham, David, Daniel, I mean, we're talking the greatest people in the world, in the history of the world. They all fell short. Not just they fell short in sinning, but they didn't have perfect faith either. But are some people saved? Is anybody going to be saved? If yes, then they were red enough. That's my point. That's what that analogy is intended to get us to grapple with. Joy, you had your hand up. Is it still a point you want to make? Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes, thank you. So, one of the reasons, this might be the main reason for me, this might be the main reason why I am so, how does he say it? I'm especially stoked out of my mind about this study is because of the possibility that Hebrews 11 provides definitive answers on which pins are red enough. So here's a second level question about Hebrews chapter 11. The people named in Hebrews 11 are said to be approved. Once, not twice, repeatedly throughout the context, they are said to be approved. In the letter that I gave to a bunch of brothers, inviting them to lead the discussion on one or more classes this quarter, I referenced some of these passages. In verse 4, that would be Abel is described as approved as a righteous man. Verse 5, Enoch approved as one who pleased God. And verse 16, the group is generally described as God is not ashamed to be called their God. Now, let's pause for a few minutes. What do those endorsements mean exactly? Let me make it multiple choice, make it a little simpler. And I'll make it binary. Flip on, flip off. So the question that I'm interested in is, what does this approved mean exactly? Is it merely, only, an endorsement of the quality of their faith? In other words, the faith demonstrated in these people, in the accounts that are recorded in Scripture, that are referenced in the text, or that we know because even though they're not mentioned specifically, we know the stories. And so is the faith that these people demonstrated, was it genuine? And all that it means when it says that they were approved, it just means God is marking a stamp on the faith in that moment, genuine, bona fide, authentic. And so we have an endorsement of their faith. It's real faith. That was good faith. That faith is the kind of faith that could save a person. Do you follow my point? That is a lower level of endorsement compared to the second alternative. Or does their mention in Hebrews chapter 11 mean something stronger? That in fact, each of these persons is approved, meaning that the faith they held, the faith that they demonstrated, was such that they are assured of receiving the spiritual, eternal promises that are referenced in the chapter. In short, that they are saved, that they are in heaven, that they are counted as righteous by their faith. Now, that's a big deal. Yes. Yes. Okay. It seems that way to me as I read it, but I try to be humble, right? I try to be like, listen to other points of view. So I want us to answer that question, discuss that question, and answer that question as a part of this class. Yes.
go through this list, it challenges our perspective of what we believe our faith should be. What faith, how it's projected, when it's good faith.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different things going on. We know none of the perfect people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it does one thing, teach out to describe the faith, but is that faith going to be enough for our faith? Can't say that.
Okay.
We have to endure that. Has to be part of our existence. We have to stay with it. To the death.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we don't go in and out. There are going to be times where our faith is challenged and we fall. But there are things when we have the same faith, we're always going to
Okay. Okay. All right. So another way to describe why I'm excited about Hebrews chapter 11 and the possibility of what it adds to our understanding to how to answer the question, why are some people going to heaven and some people going to hell? Let me just ask it this way. Have any of you ever experienced throughout your Christian life, so exclude the time before you were converted, have you experienced any questions, any doubts, any wonderings? Am I saved? Is my faith genuine? Am I doing enough? Am I living pleasing to God? Will he say, come to my right, sheep? Or will he say, go to my left, goat? Have any of you ever wondered that? I have. Okay? I'm not suggesting, so if you're starting to get a little bit excited right at this moment, thinking that I'm about to suggest that this class is going to eliminate all those questions, I'm not, okay? I am suggesting, though, that if Hebrews chapter 11 is what I think it is, meaning if approved means what I think it means, then it is a very helpful answer key to how to assess whether a bowling pin is red enough or not. Because it's telling us all of these are red. None of them are perfectly red, like Jesus Christ, but all of these are red. Now, if all that approved means is that the faith is genuine, it's bona fide, well, come on. How many, and I'm going to ask one person in the group, we'll stay nameless, he's not answer, okay? And this person will know who he is in just a minute. But Judas Iscariot, the man who beat Jesus, and then he hanged himself. Does anybody believe he's in heaven? Except for the person who I just asked. You know who you are, please don't answer. Anybody else believe that Judas is in heaven? How many of you believe Judas is in hell? He will be in hell. He's condemned. Raise your hand if you believe that and you're willing to say, I believe that. Wow, there's a lot of people who are not raising their hand, which means, does that mean I don't know? So for people who aren't raising their hands, would you be willing to name a person in Scripture who you are close to 100% confident they are lost? Is there someone else other than Judas that would be a better example for this? Yeah. Nadab and Abihu, okay. Jezebel, okay. Let's go with Jezebel. Is there anybody willing to raise their hand and say, I'm pretty sure, I'm close to 100% confident Jezebel is in hell? Okay. So if there's people not raising their hands, is anybody not raising their hands willing to tell me why you're not raising your hands? Yeah. So you just don't want to even go on the record of saying. Okay.
Do you take into consideration breaking faith? Are you taking it as a permanent record, or can you stop it?
So I can't answer that question right now. Okay, you're interjecting. I'm having enough trouble, I'm having enough difficulty with the basic point I'm wanting to make. So please understand why I can't go on. Important question, good question, but not right now.
Chapter 11 lists some people who broke faith. But not proven.
Okay, but Richard, my point is this. I'm asking you to deal with this point. Either you're being mentioned in this chapter as having been approved, as having been a person that God is not ashamed to be called their God. The passage that Chris referenced, where they, by faith, receive the promise of the eternal kingdom. I mean, those are all, is that language that means you're saved, you're in heaven, or isn't it? Because if Samson, Rahab, Gideon, some of these characters mentioned in Hebrews chapter 11 that are surprising to us, surprising to some of us, if all that their inclusion in this chapter means is that at least one moment in their life they showed some real faith, but they're not saved. I mean, don't misunderstand, people. If the message of Hebrews chapter 11 is, don't misunderstand, Samson is not in heaven. He's not saved. But there was that one moment when he really had a really good faith. And so I'm going to put him in this list. Is that what this list is? Or is this list, if you're mentioned in this list, God is endorsing your faith to the extent, to the degree that he's saying, you are approved. I am not ashamed to be called your God. And you are a beneficiary of the promises. Do you understand why knowing what to make this chapter matters? The first one, where it's just an endorsement of your faith, it doesn't mean you're saved. It's helpful. It's a bunch of reddish looking men put up on the wall and saying, hey, shoot for this. But if it's, these are approved, their faith was such that they are saved by their faith. That's even more helpful. That's even more powerful. That's the second bell, but I'll let the two of you have the last word, and we'll pick up here next time. Yes? Speak up. You think they're saved or they're not saved? You think they're saved or it doesn't mean anything about whether they're saved? Okay, yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we'll save that for next time. So I'd like you to be thinking about, okay? I'm trying to get you guys to engage. All right? I'd rather have this kind of engagement than me talking for 45 minutes and you're listening and maybe getting something out of it, maybe not. So what I want us to engage with right now is that question of what does the list mean? What is the significance of the list? Okay? And we'll pick up with that next time and move forward on some other general things. Thank you.